So I'd like to start here. Well, actually, give you a little brief outline real quick. We're going to play a little bitty word game. And then I'm going to show us a video. And then we're going to go into what I call the hot topic list, which we're going to tackle together as a group in discussion. And when we get to that part, you can think of me as your ringleader rather than your lecturer. This is meant to be more of an interactive discussion than I'm used to doing, whether it's 5 people or 500. And we're going to go into some deep stuff today, and we'll see where it leads us. So the first thing I want to mention before we play our little word game is that, as you know, this is a yoga center, which is to say that it's not a church, right? And the reason I say that is because there will be, or could be, subjects, ideas that may intertwine and overlap with certain things that we may have thought of or heard of growing up or not in such places. And the luxury I have, that we have as a yoga center, is that I can say what I want. But if I were to church, I wouldn't be able to. Now, why is that? Why do I have the luxury to say what I want here at the yoga center, but why am I saying that if I were to church, I wouldn't be able to? Let me give you a little hint. What you got?
Is there a doctrine that you follow?
Well, fair question. But hold that thought, and you may know more about that answer as we go. I'm going to write a number on the word. I'm going to ask you if you know what this is. It's actually got a letter in it, too. Does anybody know what that means? 501c3. What's that?
Nonprofit.
Yes. Loosely put, yes. Does anybody want to elaborate on 501c3?
The tax.
It has to do with taxes. Good.
No.
Ah, very good. This is a tax exempt status official documentation title of what happens to a church. And when I say church, I'm not necessarily talking about your neighborhood country church with a local preacher reading whatever verse he or she wants from any page of the Bible or any other book, or for that matter, what I might say at a yoga center, because I did not sign one of these contracts. I don't have to. But in order to be an official institutionalized church in any denomination in the world, you got to sign one of these. Now, why do I say gotta sign one of these? It seems like a privilege, doesn't it? Churches are tax exempt, aren't they? And we need to ask ourselves, why are they tax exempt? Does anybody want to take a stab at that? Why are the official institutionalized churches in the world tax exempt? Does anyone want to guess?
So they can be controlled.
Thank you. Our dear hostess Diana nailed it. You don't get such a wonderful privilege unless you sign on the dotted line saying, I will follow this dogma and I will not go any further than that. You're going to make me tax exempt because this church is now a business. And with this document owned by the government, so to speak. And that is how the institutionalized church is governed, like it or not. And I only say all that before we kick off to set the disparation between what we do here and what I do here and what a church might do. Because you're going to hear some stuff that you might have heard in church, you might think you would hear in church. But because we're not a church, we don't have to worry about this. And one more thing to distinguish before I play the video is that I make a very strong distinction between this word and this. That has two words right there that trigger a lot of people, right? Real quick, let's differentiate, shall we? This word here, got it, which loosely means to bind to the divine. That sounds familiar, because that sounds a heck of a lot close to what the word yoga means, which is union with God, or union with the divine. Union, binding. In other words, a religare experience could be a lot of things. A religare could be jumping out of an airplane. A religare could be a beautiful meal. A religare could be a great meditation session. A religare could be watching your favorite TV show all night long. A religare could be a religious experience is a religious experience. That can happen in a lot of ways. It does not have to happen here, is my point. Right?
Right.
So in other words, religion is not the problem, if you ask, if I may be so bold. This is. If you break down the words, and this is why I make a distinction between the words. And let's look at this word. This is where it gets scary, because it's right in the word, y'all. Church. Old English. Kirche. Or Kirk. This would be more Germanic. And Old English, Kirk. Greek. Here we go. What's that word right there? Xerxes. What do we know about Xerxes? The Greek god. Which is where we get the word church. Does anybody know? Do you remember there's an opera about this? Do you remember what Xerxes is all about?
No.
Xerxes is a goddess that lures people into its lair, casts a spell on them, turns them into pigs, and eats them. That is the story of Xerxes.
Oh, it's a spirit in the sky? The Japanese animation?
Oh, I do know exactly what you're talking about. No, Spirited Away.
Spirited
Spirited Away.
Away. Spirited Away.
I'm like, it's
Let me repeat that. The church lures people into its lair, turns you into a pig, and eats you. And steals your shit.
Only if you eat the food.
So now I have made my argument. And whether you agree with it or not, there's my argument. And the reason why I make a distinction between religion and the church. And I know these words get used in our modern world. No problem. No problem. The distinction is important, at least for our, so you know my perspective. I worked in the church. I grew up in the church. I have had priests as employers. I'm literally from choir boy to choir master, from 8 to 48 or whatever. So I reserve the right to have that opinion. Having said that, let's move to the next phase. I'll play the video for you now. This particular video is from about a year ago. It's from the Pluto into Aquarius series, which you can see most of online for free. But it's a particular one where I got pretty darn mystical. And you may hear some things that you would categorize as controversial, if that's the word you use, or off a little bit, but I'm putting it out there on purpose to stimulate the discussion that's going to come afterwards when we get to our hot topic list, which is going to be the real fun part of our talk today. So bear with me. And before the video, the next word game is this. You're going to hear a word. Here's our next word. You're going to hear a word a lot in this video. And it's this word right here. Now, before we hear the video, let's play a word game. Because I'm fair, and because we're not 501c3, we can do that. So as a group, let's come up with some other words for this. Because some of us aren't comfortable with this word.
Source.
Source, that's a good one. Thank you. Joy, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Joy. She came up with a good one to kick us off. How are some other ones?
Universe.
Keep them coming, y'all. Sorry?
The divine.
The divine divinity, yes. More.
I don't know.
The immaculate object at the end of time.
That's good. Don't have to write those all out. The immaculate. Even antonyms, if you want antonyms, I'll put them up there too. I'm fair. God is what?
Love.
Love, thank you. That is in the Bible. That is in the Bible. That's in the Bible. This was one of the ones I was going to add. This is God is described in the Bible itself as love, as light, and there's another interesting word. And in the actual word for word state from the Bible as a shield. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, wow. Yeah, wrap around.
Isn't that interesting? Am I spelling that right? God is love, light, and a shield. Anybody else? We're not done yet. God is or isn't.
Everything.
Okay, good. All. Is that fair?
Everything
One.
and nothing.
Oneness, one, all.
Alpha, omega.
Alpha, omega.
Everything in the void.
Right, the void.
Black, white, and primary colors. Macaroni noodles.
Everything.
All right, so I think you guys are. I think we're ready.
Good.
All right, so here we go.
Up here.
Let's do this, y'all.
So why is free will God's greatest gift to us? If God is going to bring us back to the light no matter what is the point? What is the point of having the opportunity to mess up over and over and over again? Why does God need to see us trip over our shoelaces over and over again? Why do we have free will? If we are a spark of divine creation, why do we come into the 3D with free will, with choice to walk away from God? Why is that part of our human nature while we're here on earth? And why is free will God's infinite grace? Why is free will God's infinite grace? God wants to expand its own mind all the time. And God expands its own mind through us, through our creations and the creation of our own life. In the way that God creates through us and the way that God creates through its entire creation, we are encouraged to reach out like a branch, to grow, to reach. And this is what free will gives us. A chance to expand the mind of God through our own creation and through our own creations. And while we're in the 3D, it is the only way we can learn. The real lessons that truly expand and expound and grow the rank of our soul in God's eternity. It is the only way. Free will in the 3D and the earth life is the greatest opportunity for our soul's growth and the quickest the quickest way to kickstart and change the trajectory of our soul, the upward trajectory of that growth, the human life, which is why the dark forces in all the different dimensions, and we've spoken and hinted to this in other episodes, because there are more dimensions than the three. If we're in the third dimension, why did they call it the third if it's the only one? Why isn't it just called the dimension? Because there's 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and counting. That's why. And that third dimensional earth reality, and let's be fair, the word earth is spelled with the same 5 letters as the H-E-A-R-T for heart. It is the mid-garden reality, the mediator, the middle chakra of the 7, 3 lower, 3 upper, and the mediator heart green in the center. And we come to mediate our soul in the earth life. Those extra dimensional forces that come from different upper and lower realms that do not necessarily have our best interest at heart. Some of them may, and many of them don't. They come here because they know. They come here to influence because they know. They know how precious this earth life is in the growth of our soul and the growth of the mind of God itself. Aquarius holds the key, the pitcher of water. The water is a spirit pouring out by Aquarius, the Aquarian man in the sky. It holds the key to the mind of God. And the powers in the world know that if we reconnect with the mind of God, we can restructure our world and our civilization in a godly fashion. A more godly world where certain restrictions just don't make any sense. A world where natural law is followed. And the civilization is governed by that natural law and no other laws but that. Because natural law is the only law. The Aquarian waters of the mind of God, the fixed air of Aquarius, as the outermost prima mobile Pluto passes through for the next 20 years, to rip open the cracks and crevices in the depths of people's minds and in the innermost of the collective, connected through technologies that we don't even understand. And advancements in technologies that only small groups of people know about. Pluto's going to rip it all open. And if we can seize and grasp and understand and hold on to the power of that Aquarian mind of God, the pitcher of water flowing back into the world, if we can hold on to it and grasp it and understand it and realize it and hold it and be strong enough and responsible enough and disciplined enough and aware enough to hold it and cultivate it, we can restructure our civilization, and it can be a human civilization again, and not a civilization that is governed by some force outside of our own, which is in part what is going on. People can argue till the end of the day, and to the end of the year, and to the end of the decade about what we call that, how many are involved, and what's human and what's not. The point is, it's a spiritual battle. And of course, there are human beings involved. Human beings that have fallen prey and bent a knee to these forces. Pure and simple. And if these particular groups of people, whatever you want to call them, if these particular groups of people have a good relationship with their so-called deity and we do not, then they're going to win the battle in the world. Pure and simple. We cultivate a better relationship with our Almighty Creator, and we will have a fighting chance in the spiritual battle here on earth. We cultivate a better relationship with our divine Creator, and we have a fighting chance in the spiritual battle here on earth. If the powers that govern the structures and the institutions of the world have a good relationship with their deity, a better one than we do, then they're going to find favor in the world. It is that simple. They are going to find favor in that world. We have a chance to seize this revelation. We have a chance to seize it. The bucket of water poured by Aquaman has all of the information in it that we need. All of the information. It will come to us in digital form. It will come to us in invisible insightful downloads. It will come to us in signs and symbols. It will come to us in things that people say. It will come to us in ways that we do not expect. And it will come to us right in our face in the news, in places that we were only expecting a lie. And it will come to us in places when we were expecting the truth, and it will be a lie. Because when the water barrel pours back into the world, it splashes. It splashes. And things get muddy for a while. And there's a mess that has to be swept up and mopped up and cleaned away before everything can be properly processed. And as I have said, we are lucky that Pluto travels slowly, very, very slowly. Because, let's be fair, it is pretty ridiculous how slowly we humans learn. And it's a good thing that this physical life, this density that we are in for this time seems like such a grind and seems to last forever. Because we need the time to figure some things out. We need this lifetime to do it. And some people go from cradle to grave, never even thinking of figuring it out or whether there is anything to figure out. But that is what we are here to do as yogis. And as human beings who have woken up to the reality that this is a spiritual existence, that we are not human beings, that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. The waters of Aquarius are going to teach us that in the collective. Uranus and Saturn together rule and govern over that collective, that energy and how it flows. And they're going to show us how those dots connect and how they're supposed to connect properly with the proper colored lines and in the proper direction. 20 years to deal with the splash, the trauma of that, the confusion of that, the chaos of that, which is coming first, and then to mop up the mess and process the damage left behind and the illumination left behind. One way or another, human beings will have to come together in certain ways that we have not. And as I have spoken of in previous episodes, there is a connectivity issue here at hand. And many things will need to disconnect first. And many new things, many new connections will be formed that seem impossible at this stage. And 20 years from now, they will be fully connected. We shall see. No doubt about it. We feel the waters of spirit pouring into the depths of our spirit when Pluto is involved in Aquarius. This is the first time in our life that we've felt it, and it is deeply felt because that's where Pluto operates. This won't be necessarily an emotional experience for people. It's not a water sign, it's an air sign. There is a major factor of all this that must be cultivated in the mind. And hearkening back to an early episode where I mentioned the frontal cortex of the human species, it is my contention that the plant kingdom is more advanced than we are, and that in the animal kingdom, we are the least advanced of all the animals. They are living in the mind of God all the time. And our frontal cortex, although it gives us the ability to design tall buildings and fast vehicles and flying machines and nanotechnology and dangerous pharmacology, that does not mean we are the most advanced. We are potentially the most advanced, and this is the point. We have to come into full alchemy of our whole being, and the yuga cycle that we are coming out of has disallowed this in the human spirit and the human civilization. It is, the yuga cycle has pulled us out and down out of that through entropy and through the dark forces that have been allowed to creep in for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. We do not know what we are capable of. And we have patted ourselves on the back for hundreds of years saying, look how advanced we are, look how much better we are than all the other animals. We need to take a good look at how the birds operate and see how automatic everything is. Sometimes when I hone in to the spirit animals, I can almost hear them laughing at us and chuckling with empathy. Because at one point in their existence, they were like us too, clueless and not tapped in properly. But as I spoke of and mentioned at the beginning of this particular talk, it's about free will. And our free will and the amnesia that we come into this life with is part of that gift. If we knew everything about the past and our existence, first of all, our brain would explode and our third density, physicality, would not be able to withhold that. We would explode, we would implode from within. The amnesia is important so that we can exist in this small, dense little suit for this small period of time. The free will and the amnesia is there so that we can fully cultivate that frontal cortex into its fullest potential and not waste it. Even though the modern world pulls us outside of that self-awareness, such that we end up extending our brain power and all of our gifts and talents on seeking outward into the world, into the system that conditioned us. And that's what we do. Yoga reminds us that it is inside where all the questions are and all the answers and all the problems and all the solutions are all inside. This movie that you are living in, that I mentioned in a previous episode, as a metaphor for life, the movie that you are watching now, that I am playing a character in, you are the lead character. And you are co-writing this film with God simultaneously as you star in it. And I don't exist without that movie that is in your mind. And this is how very complex God's reality is, because I, too, am having a movie of my own. And both of them are happening simultaneously, and billions of movies are happening simultaneously, and God's puzzle is that complicated. And his reality is that mystical and that incredible. I don't exist without you. And yet, I am a sovereign being in God's reality and God's eternity, seeking and finding my own soul's dream in God's eternity. All of those things are true, all at once. And your free will is proof of that.
Please, anyone? Comments, questions? I'll accept the applause. Any words to follow that up, Miss Becca?
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Exactly, very fitting for what most of us just did last weekend. Traveling and journeying and diving into the depths of our own beings and we got there. And knowing that we are each other. And then we're all having our own movie. And we're all in an epic saga. All of it.
Anybody else?
Very much is aligned with the truths that were unlocked for me in my recent experience. It just to trust that, if you lead from your heart, that the beauty, Aquarian beauty is there, just aligned with that heart space and trust. No fear. We can transcend that hundreds of years that you've been talking about. And I feel like it's just very recently that I have transitioned into that new
Thank you.
space that you're talking
Anybody else?
about.
I see you. I hear you. One, I essentially am one with you.
Y'all ready for the big reveal, the hot topic list?
Show us.
That's what we're going to do. We've got 6 topics here. We're going to categorize them based on your interest. And then we're going to plow through them as much as we can. In no particular order. They are: what is the matrix? Sex, Kundalini, moon cycle, endocrine system. Great shift, age of Aquarius, end times. Addiction, a sacred disease. Nodal axis, soul growth, karma. And I would add to that trauma, karma, trauma. And the last one, Saturn, Satan, Venus, Lucifer 666.
Can we start with
Let's start it here. What does this,
Come on down, Ethan. It'll be fun.
what does this have to do with this?
You have to read what you're writing. Oh, Kundalini.
Sex Kundalini.
Everything. What is that?
What do those have to do with one another?
One's practice for the other.
Well,
At the let's think at the metaphysical biochemical level. What's
both of them bliss you out.
but
So you can get
Bliss is
high
chemicals.
essentially off of either of them. You can also go out your crown chakra on either of them, right?
Altered states, essentially, and getting to a sort of climactic event, practice.
Intention.
Yeah.
Intention.
Both
is
can
what
be
changes one from
addictive.
one to the other.
Both can be addictive.
these subjects are all they all dog-leg into one another. Whatever the word is.
You could get burnout on
Can you
either of
define
them too.
Kundalini?
Yes.
Thank you. What is Kundalini anyway? What is this?
This is the rising
Yoga.
up.
The Kundalini snake up the column of your spine
That's right.
from the root up.
The Ida, the Pingala. This is I'm a terrible drawer and a terrible writer in terms of my penmanship.
I knew what you meant. It's the
It is the
fact
double-
that the snakes wrap
We've all seen the caduceus, right?
It's like
The caduceus on the American Medical Association
Yep.
is a double-coiled serpent.
Mhm.
The Ida and the Pingala, right? Ida, Pingala.
Yeah.
Male, female, masculine, feminine to be more precise, because I'm a male, that's a male, y'all are female, but all of us have Ida and Pingala. Because we're all spirit beings. And on the subject board there, I said this word too. Endocrine. What is that? What's the endocrine system? Hormones. What makes the hormones? What do we call them?
the gland.
The glands. Thank you. Yes, the glands. The glandular system is the same, right? This system of the 12 systems in the body. Oh, there's a little number 12 again. If you heard from my last lecture, which I recommend you go and listen to, because that's when we go into the basics of astrology. Because it's all 12s, right? 12 tribes of Israel, 12 signs of Zodiac, 12 this, 12 that, 12 systems of the body. Of the 12, the endocrine system arguably can be argued is the most important because it governs and balances out all the rest because of the glandular secretions in your pituitary, pineal, thymus, and all the rest. And what is it? What is it that pharmakia attacks in your body? It attacks this because it's going to control the rest. And let's take an interesting look at this word, endocrine. Crine is similar to the word brine. What's a brine? What's a brine? When you're cooking, what's a brine?
Like a
It's what?
like a broth, like a salt.
Is it a salt?
It's like a greasy, oily substance that we use for. It's fatty. It's soupy. It's fatty. Do you hear where I'm going with this, y'all? We're talking about sex right now, aren't we?
Did you say brine or grind?
Well, brine, B-R-I-N-E. When we make a brine,
making pickles.
a brine sounds like crine. This is oil, if you will. Right? Oily stuff. Oily stuff, y'all. Sticky. Right? This word, this part of the word simply means in, right? What does this word crime, what does that sound like to you?
Kriya?
I'm so shaky because of my flu, but I'm getting there. Endocrine is Christ within. It's right in the word. And what is this? This, the Greek for this, the Greek for this is
Christo.
Christos. It's where we get the word Crisco. There's some more brine for you.
Some more fat.
Christus is oil. Is it not? The crine endo, the Christos within, the brine within, is your sexual energy. And it is in your spinal cord. Let me say that again. In another way. This horrible drawing of my Kundalini double-coiled serpent here, the Ida Pingala, is the oils that are secreted in your endocrine system into your spinal cord, which govern all of the chakras, and which then govern all the systems of your body. And as someone said very well earlier, when we think of what sex is in a basic form, it can blast up or it can blast down, right?
Right.
When we blast it down, we make a baby. That force, and it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, the energy within is the same. That force makes a child. That is a powerful creative force. This brine is Christos in your spine. That's pretty amazing. Now think about that for a second. If you were to use that energy, which someone has already hinted to in another way, what kind of creating could you do in and of yourself? The sexual energy, endocrine system, the Christos, is that very thing. Which is to say, and at this point I will throw in my bold viewpoint on it, if you will. At the extreme level, I'll give you the extreme version, which, by the way, is spoken of in the great mystery schools, i.e. what is now known in the modern world as Freemasonry. Because when you get to a certain degree, because the Freemasonic Lodge is in multiple degrees, and when you get to a certain degree of initiation, you walk through that certain door and they say, stop fornicating. And what I'm talking about particularly is in the ancient world, before the mystery schools were corrupted by the dark forces that I spoke about in the video. Stop fornicating. If you want to alchemize your soul, if you want Christ within, stop wasting your sexual energy. And you can create in you the same force that makes a baby, for God's sakes. You can turn it up. It's called sublimation of the Christos. We live disciplined lives. We're not governed by lust. And the way I put it in, as I said, the extreme terms, if you're not procreating, no fornicating, and for God's sakes, no masturbating. Right? We all know what sex is. We all know how good it feels. Now, you've heard me preach about it for a minute. Let me toss it to you. How is this fitting with this? Questions or comments about how far we've gone so far? Am I full of shit?
It's the life force inside of us.
Yeah, sorry.
It is
The life force
The-
inside of us.
Joy.
No, it's just I think it touches on this in the Way of the Superior Man that I had read something in there about that, right? Yeah.
You
Like-
betcha.
How it sits with me, not. But I'm like, that's great for some. That's kind of how I feel.
This is a heavy subject. We started with the heaviest
I feel
one.
like, yeah, that's great for some, but I want to have sex with my partner, and I want to be close with my partner.
Of course.
I guess what's going on in my head.
And in the modern world, the way forward, in my humble opinion as a yogi, is that we do it in the most disciplined way we can. And we don't stay with one or another or that practice or another simply for the pleasure at the physical level, but understand the greater purpose of the sexual energy, and we don't waste it more than we should. And we are not governed by our physical lust. Understanding what I said in the video, that we are not physical beings. We know how good it feels. But if we knew how good a spiritual orgasm felt, we might want to pursue that more. And I have at certain times in my life. I have spent many years of my life completely celibate, chaste. And I've also had addictive proclivities towards sexual activity too. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum. And therefore I speak from experience. And to be fair, the modern world we live in is addicted to sex. And we got to reel this in. If we want to come back to the mind of God, like I talk about in that video, we got to reel it in. And that's why I put this subject on the board, on the list today, because it's that critical. Because your sexuality, i.e. not your sexuality, but your sexual energy, is your soul. It is your brains. And on the topic board, I mentioned the moon cycle. And Joy, brought up a very important point. And it's a point that everybody understands very well, because we're all adults here. We all know what happens. But I mentioned the moon cycle, didn't I? What's going on with the moon cycle? What is the deal with the moon cycle? And here is the beautiful thing about it, y'all. If we want to live in a healthy way when it comes to this huge deal subject, it's real simple. If you want to keep it simple, there's a way to do it. First thing you do is stay away from porn. We know that. Mm-hmm. But with the partner, if you're not partnered, forget it. Leave it alone. Completely. But if you are, here's all you got to do. In the moon cycle, I'll go ahead and write my Zodiac on I'll get it going anyway so we can use it. I won't make it huge because I need room to write. But when the moon, and we can get to why it's the moon if we need to. When the moon is transiting the house or the sign where your sun was when you were born, which is the easiest one to look up. We know the month, most of us know where our sun is. Like if you say I'm a Libra, that means your sun is a Libra, right?
Right.
So that sun, for me, that's Capricorn.
Me too.
When the moon is transiting your sun sign, you abstain, because during that time, what happens is the endocrine system, the pituitary gland, secretes what's called the Christos, the germ of our soul, down into the column of your spine, down into the solar plexus, into the sacral chakra, and plants a seed of divinity within you. Every month, we get 28 days. We get 28-day periods. We have opportunity to do this every 28 days. But we're chasing the orgasm around in the modern world so much we miss it most of the time. I'm talking generally here. I'm not pointing fingers.
So you're saying once a month, if I'm understanding correctly, once a month we abstain when our
Moon is
What
in
I
your
am-
sun.
When the moon's in your sun sign,
uh-huh.
you abstain. And when the moon's in your partner's sun sign, you abstain.
It's in Leo right now, right?
Right, I don't know.
How do I know when the moon is in my sign? How do I look that up?
You follow the moon, it's easy, just as easy as looking up where your favorite restaurant is.
Okay.
It's all there, and you follow the moon calendar.
Okay.
This is, if you don't want to go hardcore, this is a good way to do it. Follow the moon cycle. Think about it. The female follows the moon cycle with the menstrual cycle, the flow of the fluid. In the case of the women's cycle, it has to do with the blood. But the men have a cycle too. And women have the same cycle with their endocrine glands and the sex.
Does it align? That would be silly. It doesn't align when a woman is in her moon cycle. You're not saying
I'm not saying they're aligned, but the moon, the menstrual cycle is one thing.
Right.
But the point is, it's the 28-day cycle either way.
Right.
Because the moon governs the water of our being. We talk a lot about that in my last lecture that goes all into the fundamentals of the zodiac. The moon is a 28-day cycle. New, half, full, waxing, waning.
Mm-hmm.
The Christ within. If I may be so bold, what I'm trying to explain to you right now is what that word really means. It's biophysical. It's metaphysical. It is chemical. It is not supernatural. It's in your body. It's in your endocrine system. If we live healthy life, eat healthy diet, live properly, discipline, all these things. And we have to get to that with other subjects too. But there it is, put simply. And we do have to plow forward because we got more subject. It looks like you all want to hear them all. But before we do, any more questions or thoughts about this?
I'm just gonna make a note in my phone.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was not texting it to you.
Very good, y'all.
So is it for the whole month that you abstain?
No. If you abstain for the whole month, you have to abstain for the whole
I
year.
Once a year for the whole month, when right now the moon is in Leo right now for a month.
Every time the moon's in Leo.
So it's once a year for a month.
Okay.
No, it's once a month, every month.
Okay. Okay, so it's a daily thing.
It's about 2.5 days out of every month.
Okay.
And then 2.5 days for your partner. 5 days out of the month.
What about the moon being in Leo right now? What does that have anything to do with?
If the moon, if your son's in Leo, the moon's in Leo, that would be a time to abstain. It's that simple. Don't complicate it. If you want to live and be sexually active, I'm giving you the healthiest way to do it, and still be able to alchemize. It's particularly if you're not having promiscuous sex with multiple partners. Don't get me started on that, because I don't believe in that. Saturn. Venus. Lucifer. So, does anybody want to take a stab at what the connection is with these words?
Well, Lucifer is the morning star or something like that. So Venus rises in the morning.
You betcha. Spot on.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. We can start there.
Lucifer means light. I don't know.
Well,
Bring of light.
Lucis. You see a lot of corporations use that word. You hear it chanted in the Vatican. Lucifer. They chanted in the Vatican. Lucifer. You can hear them doing it. They'll even print out the subtitles for you. What on earth are they doing? What on earth are they saying? Why are they chanting for Lucifer in the Vatican, St. Peter's Basilica? I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right what they're doing. Because I'm drawing a distinction, or comparison rather.
I think
Because we use it, how do we use it? How does the modern world use these two worlds, Satan and Lucifer? What are they,
The devil.
it's evil, the devil, evil, right?
Sure.
Okay. But Venus is just the morning sun. Venus is it's often the very bright star that we see down low in the horizon. It is known to be the bringer of the dawn, right? Because it precedes the sun. The sun's the big boy. Christ, the big boy, the light that rules them all. Lucifer ushers it in. You see Venus appearing brightly on the horizon, and then just a little while after that, sunrise, right? And that's how Venus came to be known. But why on earth why are these spoken of as, why do we use these words for evil? I'm going to show you in terms of the Zodiac, okay?
Yeah.
I didn't even watch it yet.
I
Yeah.
haven't even watched it all, but I'm like, this.
Venus is the ruler of the sign of Taurus. Venus is right here in its rulership. It also rules Libra down here. But Taurus in the Zodiac, it's the second archetypal house of the Zodiac. Unfortunately, this is not a fundamental astrology lesson going deeper beyond that, but that's okay. Taurus is known as fixed earth. It's the most solid of the earth signs. Venus represents the senses, the physical senses, things that are earthy, food, sofas, blankets, things that make us feel good. And, you know, in modern astrology, people very loosely throw Venus around as the planet of love, which is true, but more specifically, it's talking about how our senses experience love. It is the sensual side of that, i.e., the earthy, physical side of love. It is the physical, it is the senses. People who are Venusian are sensual, right? It is physical, physical, physical. You see where I'm going with this? We are not physical beings, right? And therefore, Lucifer, if the dark forces in the world are going to venerate Lucifer, which they do, what they're getting at is they are venerating the physical senses over the spirit, pure and simple. Which is to say, that's separate from God. Which is to say, if you continue to follow that path, you're gonna end up in the lap of the devil, or the devil on your tail and dance with the devil. Because I'm all about the senses, man. I'm gonna follow my senses. We just talked about it with the sex subject, and that's why the connection of Venus and Lucifer. Because it's fixed earth, it's a sense of the physical sense. If we worship that, we're going to get ourselves in trouble, and that's the trouble that the world is in. Because the forces that govern the world worship that. And they try to lure us all into that rather than seeking the spirit. Now, why Saturn? What's going on with Saturn and Satan? Yeah? Does anybody want to take a stab before? Okay. In ancient Egypt, the name for the adversary was Set.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? As in what? The setting sun, the sunset. You got light and you got dark. You know, back in the day, we didn't have clocks, we didn't have internet, we didn't have telephones. They followed this to know what time it was, right? And so the adversary was set, because set, the sun setting represented, here comes the darkness. And the name for the light during the day was Horus. Now, this is where we get the word hours. Look at the letters. It's where we get the word hour. What Horus is it now? Where's Horus? Oh, it's Horus 1, Horus 2, Horus 3. That's how we tell time. Horus is at 1, Horus at 2. We get the word hours. So the light was Horus and the darkness was Set. This is where we get the word Satan. And Saturn has its rulership right down here in the sign of Capricorn.
Yep.
It also rules Aquarius. And what is Capricorn? Capricorn is cardinal Earth. We have fixed Earth and cardinal Earth. The Earth, the physical energy which initiates, climbs the rock. And Saturn, Capricorn, in the world governs the institutions. Saturn is a taskmaster. Saturn is the one who sets the laws, sets the rules. It makes you wait. It says, you go learn your lesson. It's the Lord of Karma. It's the Lord of the Rings. Saturn has rings, does it not? Because it's the Lord of the Rings. We got earrings. We got the mortarboard when we graduate. We got a square mortarboard on our head. That's Saturn, y'all. Saturn's the hex. We're getting somewhere now.
Yeah.
The hex. On the top pole of Saturn is a 6-pointed hex. 6. My goodness. Again, the physical world. Saturn sets the rules, lays the institutions out. Schools, churches, buildings, governments, libraries, courts, jails, houses, bridges. It's everything that is, right? Again, physical, not spiritual in a way. In other words, again, if you venerate this energy, which is what the Satanists do, you're going to fall into evil again because you're not venerating the Christos. The sun is king. The sun is king of the Zodiac, not Saturn and Venus. But if you say, to hell with the light of God, I'm going to venerate Saturn and Venus, the two planets that handle the physical stuff in the world and the physical stuff in our bodies. You're going to fall right into evil every time. And that's exactly what the dark forces in the world do. These are their planets. And guess what the symbols are? Venus, what's the symbol for Venus?
It's horns. No.
It's a 5-pointed star.
Yeah.
You see it on football helmets. You see it on the American flag, for God's sakes. And I'm not a very good drawer, but you could do it upside down and make it creepier. Now that it's oftentimes you see the Luciferian star pointing downward, which is to emphasize the physical, the darkness. And in the sky, Venus makes this pattern. It's called the Venus star points. In its traverse, in its entire journey that Venus always takes, it goes boop, 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 boop. It hits these spots in the sky, and it creates a 5-pointed star of Lucifer. And there it is. And oh boy, what's the sign for Saturn? Well, we have a triangle pointing down and a triangle pointing up. Right? Put those together, what do you get? You get a 6-pointed star. Right? Like that. Star of Saturn. It's also known as Remphan. Saturn and Venus, Lucifer and Satan. The physical, the institutions of the world. So why this number in the Bible? Why this number in the Bible? Anyone want to guess? Does anybody know?
It's that like 3D or something? I don't know.
This number literally stands for 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. Does anybody know what that molecule is? 6 neutrons, 6 protons, and 6 electrons makes up the carbon molecule. And what's carbon? Carbon is basically the building blocks of all physical reality, the 3D, which we have come into temporarily as a spirit. And there it is. The number of the beast. The beast is us, the animal, the physical. That's what they mean by number of the beast, because the beast is the animal, the physical and the 3D. It's not some, yes, we have the Baphomet, which Adam was hinting at. We have the Baphomet, the crazy androgynous devil being with the horns and the breasts and because that's what it's referring to, because it's carbon. That's what that number really means. It's simple, scientific, and it's in the Bible like that. And there is your foundational essence of evil in the world, right there. And why we use those words. And why those planets are venerated over the sun, Christ, if you will. Or the moon, Isis. I see the sun and the moon as a brother-sister relationship in the sky, how they govern our being. And if we fall into veneration of these, in the worst of physical, I'm going to do what I want with my free will, with my sexual energy, all that stuff. And there it is. Any questions? Nodal axis. This is great stuff, because this is about your soul. The nodal axis, and it's the one thing that it's one of the aspects of astrology that is not in the normal, because the nodal axis, y'all, is a point in the sky that represents the cycle of the moon and the ecliptic. Does everybody know what I mean by the ecliptic? And in other words, the cycle of the equinoxes. Where the eclipses occur is either on or very near where that axial point is. It's an invisible place in the sky which represents the path of the moon and the path of the equinoxes through the zodiac. And it travels, think of it as a line that goes through this, and it goes like this. And it travels through each constellation's sign about every year and a half or so, 18 months roughly. In other words, it changes. It just changed. The nodal axis just shifted from Aries into Pisces, did it not?
Did not.
The nodal axis is right here, right now, right there, just past the equator. And it has two ends, as a north node and a south node. We maybe have heard these terms, but it's not talked about, as much as, Sun, Moon, Mars, Venus, and all the planetary placements in your chart.
Mm-hmm.
But your nodal axis represents your soul and your karma. And it is, in my humble opinion, maybe the most important fundamental aspect of our soul's blueprint in our natal chart.
Can you write that down for me? Are you saying nodal?
Nodal. Here we
Can
go.
you? Okay, nodal.
The
Your
node,
node.
the north node,
North node.
north node, south node.
Okay. Thank you. I
Yeah.
got you.
And so the understanding in astrology is that the north node is like your North Star. It's the North Star of your soul. It is where we want to point our spiritual arrow for our ultimate spiritual growth. In other words, it represents the part of our karma, the part of our whole entire soul's growth through the eons where we have not yet traversed, where we have not learned, the stuff that we have not gotten good at yet, that we need to go to. And the south node represents where we have already been and what we have built up in accumulated experience, and often what weighs us down, but also what we can benefit from because we've gotten good at it. But yet we gotta keep shooting for that spot that we've never been, which is the north node. And that's what the nodal axis represents. I will give you an example. I will use myself as an example, and I have the chart here. If people start getting curious, we can look up your node right here. Because you're not always going to get this. A good astrologer is going to talk about your nodes. I'm not. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Please.
So if we are both Capricorns, is our north node the same?
No.
Okay.
The north node has to do with the year you were born, because the nodal axis travels through an 18th month period. It's basically the year you were born.
I know mine is Cancer.
Right. Okay. What year were you born? What year were you born?
82.
It's a weird chart, but it's here. 81. Yes, here we go. In other words, September 81 to March 83 is Cancer. North node.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is to say, here's Cancer. Right. If your north node is in Cancer, where's your south node going to be?
It's Capricorn.
Capricorn. And that's a tricky one, isn't it? Because your sun's here too.
Yeah, it is.
Your sun and your south node are in the same sign. I did a reading on somebody, an old student of mine who had the same issue.
So yeah, you can tell me more about that later then. I don't want to hog the show here.
Well, what's Cancer ruled by? The moon, right? The moon rules in Cancer. It's the emotion.
Oh.
House and home, family,
Really?
and emotion. Home, family, and emotion, which is to say, this will be putting it very, very generally because I don't know the rest of your chart. But if one has a north node in Cancer, one is maybe learning how to feel.
Yeah.
We are learning how to feel in a better way.
Properly, yeah.
We're learning to get in touch with our emotions. That may be a way of putting it. I had another student here at another talk he gave who had their north node in Cancer, and he said I became an actor because my north node's in Cancer and I had to learn how to fit.
My mask, absolutely.
There you go. It's right there in your axis. It's right there in your node. My sun and ascendant are here, and my north node is in Aries. My south node is in Libra. I'll read the next example. So my south node is in Libra, which means I'm a teacher. That's where we get the word library and equilibrium and balance and biblio, right? The scales, justice, right? Everything. I want everything to be fair. I want everything to be freaking fair all the time. I can't help it. The thing my mama said more than anything when I was a kid, Paul, life's not fair. It's not fair. Stop. It's not fair. I was like, oh, Mom, it's not fair. It's not fair. I couldn't help it because I stopped learning Libra. Everything has to be fair. And the one way you could describe that is that in a karmic sense, a soul sense, my soul has spent eons standing in the background, putting spotlight on somebody else. Because this is the other. It's the justice. It's the scales of balance. The Libra walks in the room and wants to be sure that everybody's okay. Diana has teased me before. You do that. You're not a Libra, but my south node's in Libra, which is even more powerful because it's just what I'm good at. It's what I've already learned how to do. And my north node, what I have not learned how to do properly in my karmic sense, is venture out on my own and be the Aries, the Martian, I am, me. I'm going to trudge my own path. And I'm going to allow that to manifest rather than intentionally staying in the background and handing the glory over to someone else. That's not a very good way to put it, but it's just a quick example. And the way that we read our North Node, and please chime in with questions, and even if you want to look at your axis. The way that we read the North Node is twofold, and this is important. We have to look at the house, we have to look at the sign that it's in, and we look at the house that it's in. And the house has to do with 1 through 12, where we start from our ascendant. And the houses all stand for something, i.e., in other words, archetypically, Cancer is 1, 2, 3, 4. Archetypically, Cancer is the 4th house. But if your sun were in, let's say your sun were in Gemini, for example, or your ascendant, rather, were in Gemini, this would be your 2nd house, not your 4th, because it goes 1 and then around starting from the rising sun. It's very complicated. So you have to look at 2 things to determine what your North Node really means. You're looking at the sign and what it represents. In this case, in your case, Joy, Cancer, we talked about that already with the moon, the feelings. But depending upon where your ascendant, is your ascendant here, Joy? Capricorn?
Okay, ascending is,
The time of day and the place you
I
were born.
think it's, Libra.
Okay, wherever that is, you're going to start there as 1 and count around to figure out what house Cancer is for you. And let's just say it's Libra for now. If your ascendant's in Libra, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that means Cancer's your 10th house. That means it's your house of career. So if Libra is your ascendant, and if that's accurate, the way I would interpret that is looking at the house and the sign together with your node. Let's say ascendant's in Libra. This is your 10th house. 10th house is career, which is to say the key to your career is learning how to feel.
It's interesting.
It's good stuff.
Sure.
So
Whatever your first.
let's keep it simple, and I'll kind of spell out the way to look it up, and then you guys can look it up for yourself. What you want to know is the time and place that gives you your rising sign. That's your ascendant. And when you figure that out, that starts as 1. Your ascendant becomes 1, not your sun, but your ascendant becomes 1. And then you go around from there to figure out what house all the other transits are in, all the other placements are in. Okay? In other words, y'all, the word karma was mentioned on the topic board in this subject, and trauma. I also said that word. Karma and trauma. Because what is karma? No. What does that mean?
You get what's coming to you from doing good or bad in the world. It's, what you receive based off of what you have given.
Loosely translated, it simply means action. Isn't that interesting? Loosely translated, karma means action. Every action has a consequence. A reaction, if you will. So what we act upon is going to spin forth through eternity whatever snowball that creates. And that is our karma, our action. And therefore, my soul, who spent too much time in the background on the sidelines of life, watching other people get the glory or whatever. That's a bad way to put it, but it's a way that we can understand. My soul did that through the eons. I was scared to step out and do something on my own, which is why my North Node is now in Aries, because that's what Aries is, Mars. Aries stands for I am. Me. Libra stands for you. So the 7th house in the archetypal zodiac is the house of relation. This is you, and this is the other. Your relationship house is your 7th house. That's why I started a yoga center and didn't go to the seminary to become a priest. So going to seminary to become a priest would have been the librarian thing to do. I did the Aryan thing to do, which was start a yoga center all by myself. At least from a teaching standpoint. But yet I'm still a teacher. I was a school teacher for 15 years, y'all. I used to love the library. I used to just live in the library when I was in school. It's right there in the Word. Look. Look at here. This room right here, y'all, is called the library. That's what I call this room. Look, it's my South Node. It's what I'm good at. I'm not good at this. And I'm talking about my soul part. I'm talking about the deep down.
What is Aries though? What are you not good at?
Aries is I am Martian. It's cardinal fire. It's the spiritual initiation. It is the mark of the individual. I am. Which is to say, every single human soul is important. In other words, every human being has an important Aryan aspect because it's something called the ego, but more like the willpower. The willpower. And that's something I have a hard time with. Because my North Node is in Aries, I have a hard time with willpower. I have a hard time stamping my foot and saying, oh, I'm going to do this, come hell or high water, and I don't care what you think about it. That's the Aryan energy. Aryan people, Aryan energy can be very feisty and aggressive, and I don't give a fuck what you think. Because I'm just right?
Uh-huh.
And I was a teacher, I was a school teacher. Went to the library, this room's called the library, there's a library right over there. But here I am at a yoga center talking about things that you would never hear in church. That's the Aries quality that I'm trying to reach for. It's the North Star I'm trying to reach for. Feel me? Anything to add before I move on? I want to get to this next one. I'm going to pick the next one. Because I think it's really important. Even though we're a small crowd today,
You're fired up to that call.
even though we're a small crowd, this next one is so critical.
Did you talk karma when I went to the bathroom?
Well, karma
Yeah.
is action.
Yes.
That
That's
was
what-
one thing I wanted to hear, but
Well, let's go back before I move on. Okay, yeah, let's touch on it because I need to fill it in better. Thank you for doing that, Joy, because I need to fill.
No, I
No,
made
no.
it and I thought, oh, now's a good time.
Why? Okay, the action. One of the
Okay.
the reason, that's a bad word, but the reason we're here, because one of the ways that karma is interpreted is that we're in this cycle. We're in this karmic cycle that we can't, of reincarnation, if you will, that we can't get out of. Because we keep running into traumas in our life. The karma that we carry is very largely based, although not completely based, on trauma that we have experienced in our being in the past, whether it's death, war, famine, pain. You can imagine all of us in this room, inescapably so, have been through some serious traumas. We don't remember them right now, and thank God that we don't, because if we did, we would implode. We have all been in wars. We have all killed people. We have all been killed. It is inescapable. Every soul breaks bad, and every soul has an opportunity to break good. And that is your karma, and your karma is bound up in your trauma. And we are here to unravel the trauma of our past, which is the pain that we carry. The trauma of our past is the pain that we carry. And this is why Saturn is the ruler of that. Because Saturn says, oh yeah, you're going to learn the lesson, right? You're going to go, don't you move until you learn the lesson. I'm the Lord of the Rings. And you get it right, and then you can go forward. And that's why the dark forces that govern the world worship Saturn. Because that's the energy that they can hone in on and control other people with. Does that help you a little bit, Joy and Tom?
Thank you.
It is that force, let me put it this way, this is better. Karma is that force which pushes your soul forward back into another body, if you will. Does that make sense? And here we are in this flesh body suit again, in this matrix going, what the hell?
Mhm.
And why am I going through this? Because of karma, right? Because of our actions of the past. Actions that we put upon something or someone else, and actions that were put upon us. By the world, by our family, by our nation, by our love relationships, by the physical diseases we had to endure. Speaking of physical diseases and spiritual diseases, let's talk about addiction. Because addiction is a sacred disease, whether we like it or not. Now, what do I mean when I say sacred? What is that?
It's teaching you something.
What is sacred? What does the word sacred mean? There's a chakra in the body that sounds the same word. What? Sakral. Yeah, here we go. Sakral. Sacred. And where's your sacral? We talked about it in the meditation, didn't we? Where is it? Right? There. Solar plexus, below the sternum, above the navel, sacral, below the navel. And what does it represent? What does the sacral chakra represent? What does it govern in our being?
Creativity.
That's one of them. It also represents your desire, your sex. And a lot of repressed emotion, right? Right here. And when I work on with meditative techniques with people, I talk about this all the time. I start here often. We ground into the floor and then we go into the sacral. Because this is where your repressed memories are. Your desires, all of your desires, every dream you have ever had is bound up in the same energy that makes you horny and all that other stuff. It is sacred. Now, what on earth does that have to do with addiction? And what is addiction, y'all? What is it? What's addiction?
Inability to control your desires.
Very nice. Anyone want to elaborate? What is addiction? And why is it so rampant? Not only in the world, but in this room. Guilty. I live with it. I live with it, y'all, to this day. I always will. When you live with the condition that I live with, you're addicted to everything. Everything. You are. I am. And I battle with it every single day. And I'm not ashamed to say it. Because I know we all do. But what is it?
I know.
Is that Misty down there? Say it. What's up? Please help. Come on.
So this weekend, that part was very clear. We are all one, and we are all in this oneness, and those that have been really, really, really recently close to this very big oneness, like, hey, we just came down here to help out the others. So, like, a lot of us, we can really remember what it's like. And so when we get here, we're like, this is not it. Because there's so much separation here inside of it. So addiction is not knowing why it feels like there's a hole and there's something missing, and trying to fix and fill that hole. And a lot of times it's so unconscious, but it's true, and we can do it with anything.
Bingo.
Meditation. I found myself. I was like, wow, I just switched it to something good, but it's still the same thing.
It could be spirituality.
It could be anything. You can use anything. You can use your job. You can use it. It is fucking anything underneath the sun. All it is trying to fill a void.
Money.
We can never not be alone, and it's really, it's not. You think that, you know, and a lot of the spiritual teachings they teach that. It's one thing to logic it, but our adventures when we have to experience it. You can't you can't unexperience, you can't unsee, you can't unknow, and I think that's why it helps addiction fucking fall away from so many people like that, because it's like, oh, when you really know, when you spend enough time over there that you can't convince yourself that it was a daydream afterwards, because that's really that battle line. You know, like, was that something, you know, our ego can contort it to get back control and get back in the 3D. And that's what my opinion is, anyway.
Who wants to-
I didn't mean to sound like I knew everything. So I'm sorry.
Thank you. Anybody, please elaborate.
I think, yeah, it's almost like it's an inability to understand the balance, that there's really good and then the bad that's, here that we're not, getting whenever we're trying to search for our addiction, that is trying to teach us something. And I think it's a lack of understanding of that balance that leads us to just, constantly be striving for something outside of ourselves to, find that, fill the void.
And you guys y'all already hinted at it. It can be anything. And unfortunately, in the modern world, we make these distinctions. But I'm here to be so bold and tell you that there is no distinction.
Mm-hmm.
If it's shopping, sex, booze, pills,
Yoga.
Yeah.
work,
Gardening.
Work.
We make really good things.
Yeah,
it doesn't, and I'm here to tell you that it doesn't matter what it is.
It's outside of
Because it is representing the same soul sickness no matter what. And we know that there are different levels of severity and intensity. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the source is your soul. Addicted people, and I will also be so bold to say that our entire culture is addicted. Again, at varying levels, people, different varying degrees.
It's shoved into our program.
Well,
It's everywhere.
it's shoved in front of our faces.
We think something outside of ourselves is going to solve the problem, and that's not it. It's the problem is with our soul.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yep.
And what do I say in the film? Every problem and every solution is inside.
Mm-hmm.
Every answer and every question is inside.
Mm-hmm.
It is a sacred disease. And I will be so bold again and say, if you struggle with addiction, you are one tiny step away from God.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you conquer it, there it is.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. And I can say hallelujah even on a day or a period of weakness, if you will, in my so-called addictions. I am not ashamed to say it. If we don't face this with discipline and seriousness, we will not come back to the divinity the way we need to. It's the starting place. It doesn't have to be sex. It doesn't have to be drugs. And again, the cycle's right here. It's a good physical representation because many of our addictions fall right into this part of your body, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And what's down here? Your liver and your other organs. And what's the word? It's one of my favorite words. Live. It's the liver. It lives. It is what governs. And by the way, this is what mammals have. This is what mammalian animals have different from the plant kingdom. I talked about in the video the plant kingdom being superior to us. They don't have livers. They don't have an organ that filters out the shit. They don't need it because they're living in the mind of God. They don't have addiction. Plants don't get addicted.
Oh my gosh. So liver, like live, earth.
You live.
Sorry. And then if you do that backwards.
And look, I'll give you even better. Look at this one. Look at this one.
Reveal? Anybody else do that?
Yeah, and what's that?
Reveal,
What's lived?
right?
What's
Lived,
lived is
reveal.
devil. Lived is devil backwards. And reveal and liver and reveal and live and
Once
devil.
we stop living or feel like we're stopping living, that's when, that's what that is. Set. Words.
Y'all are killing it. What is the matrix? Anybody? What's the matrix?
I'm sorry, I don't know
It's a collective dream, I think.
where we live out.
The rest of this world.
How is it represented? How is it represented in the film?
Plastic colors is not it.
How is it represented in the film? Is a control system that is a computer.
At the visual level, what's the image of it though? It's this grid of green zeros and ones, right?
Right. Binary code.
And you see the scene when they go, and you see Neo standing in this grid of zeros and ones, right? And what are they referring to? What are they getting at with that imagery? What is it?
Everything, nothing.
Go ahead. Let's continue.
It's kind of what Einstein was trying, like theory of relativity or whatever, but it's field theory. So it's essentially every single point possible in the cosmos combined into one, I suppose.
Good stuff.
I don't want to speak up.
Let's break the word down a little bit. We look at words. Words mean things, y'all. Okay, so here's matrix. What are the other words? One of my favorite words in the world, mat. There's the mat. Y'all are sitting on right now. And anybody who's practiced yoga with me for any brief period of time, I just talk about it all the time. Touch the mat, feel the mat. Why? Because it's the physical part. We're grounding into our being, right? To get grounded to the earth. The mat that's underneath you, your yoga mat, is a temporary representation in a certain shape and size that your body fits on that is representing Mama Earth. Matter. Oh, look, there it is again. Matter. What's matter?
The physical.
Yeah, it's the CO2. It's the carbon. 666, right? Is matter. Matter is made up of carbon 666. What else do we have? We have matter, matrimony. Oh my goodness.
You're almost spelling out her name, so yeah.
Yeah, it's getting so personal. It's like, oh, 666, he's like, star. I'm putting star.
Matrix, matter, material.
That's my partner's name.
Look at these words. It's all the same. Material, matter, matrimony, matriarch. The earth is feminine, right? The earth is a mama. That's how I see it, feel it. The earth is our grandmother. And she is the material part of God. There she is.
Okay.
And yet, the way that we use the word matrix in the society is to represent this thing that Adam hinted at, which is this control grid, right? This imposition, a phony imposition placed upon Mama Earth, which is what I call the world, the system. Which is why in the movie they say, what is the Matrix? The Matrix is all this stuff, and he goes, it's when you go to work, and they're going on the sidewalk, and they're surrounded by all these people, right? It's like all the images that we could think what we want about the film and the reason they made it. Because let me tell you something. The people who made that movie know what is going on. Because the people that made that movie are high-ranking Freemasons. And they know the answer to this. And they want to give you the fake Hollywood version in fiction. So you go, oh, what a fantastic movie. But in reality, it's a documentary. Right? The movie trilogy, the Matrix trilogy, is a documentary about the truth of this. if we can, just like we were talking about with the 666 stuff and addiction, it all dovetails together. If they can keep you embedded in the fake 0-1 system, i.e. artificial intelligence, which is where we're headed, which in my humble opinion is the devil. Not that it's not interesting and fun. I know that I get creeped out when I go to a search engine and it starts typing my search for me before I can. That's AI, that's matrix. That's the matrix that's being imposed rather than the mama matrix, the earth mother. What this represents, what this map represents for me metaphysically. Because when we ground into our own being, into mama earth, we can come back to the true matrix and not the fake one. Okay? And I mentioned where we're headed and all that stuff, and that leads us to, and we'll jump right into it so we can have our tea, our dinner, or whatever. The great cycle, the end times, the rapture, the changing of the ages, the Kali Yuga, all of these subjects. What am I talking about?
Awakening.
Yeah, there's this talk, and it's been going on since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
There's this talk that we're living in some special time, a very critical time to be alive. Do we all sort of think that's true? Do we think that this life we're in now is like really special compared to?
Yeah.
Because based on the calendar, it is. Based on the great cycle, it is pretty darn special.
That's right.
Because, and I'll explain why. And it has to do with the precession of the equinoxes. The great cycle of the precession, which travels in a opposite direction from the normal direction of the planets.
Yes.
And it's a 24,000 year period. If you consider each age lasts 2,000 some odd years. There's debates, arguments of how exactly long it is. Sometimes you hear the term 2,150 years. And for the last 2,000 years, y'all, we have been living in the age, the eon of Pisces, which is the two fish. This is Jupiter and Neptune. And we are now moving, or have moved, or now are moving, into the age of Aquarius in a 2,000 some odd year cycle. And if you go by the studies of the North American, Central American, European Gnostics of the 1950s, 1960s, they would tell you that in the decade of the 1960s, which is the decade I was born in, was the moment that the cosmos, the Earth, stepped onto the cusp point between the two, right there. The end of this age, the end of this age marking the beginning of this one. But if you can imagine a 2,000 some odd year period is going to have a really big cusp point, isn't it? It's not going to be just, hey, we're in the age now. It's going to be
Transitional.
It's going to be transitional. In other words, this entire life that we are living in right now is in the crack of that.
Mm.
That is why things are so insane.
I thought did we not just leave the age of of Capricorn? It was, what did you say?
Well, no, we're coming, the precession moves in this, the precession moves at counter to the normal planetary move. The precession moves the other way.
Okay.
Pisces is the age of the Christian church, the Vatican.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because it's the two fish, the fisher of men. Jesus was a fisher of men. Pisces is the fish.
Mm-hmm.
And what did he do? God will make you fishers of men. Because when I was a kid, they had bumper stickers on people's cars. Protestants mostly had bumper stickers on the car to two fish.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Pisces. And it represents your feet. Because he had flippers, right? And Jesus walked on water, didn't he? Yeah. It's all symbolic. It's all symbolic. Symbolic. And so Pisces, what this stands for is I believe and I doubt. It's the two fish. It's polar energies, I believe or I doubt. In other words, in age of Pisces, someone come along and say, hey, guess what? The sun is golden yellow. And the other person can say, I don't believe that. Because you see that, in other words, it's not based on knowing anything. It's stuck in belief. You either believe it or you don't. Do you believe in God? Do you believe in God? No. Yes. Who cares? God is for us to know. It's not something to believe or not. It is what we are, whether we believe it or not. And Aquarius is I know. I know. In other words, you talk about a big transition. If we're moving from an entire cosmic energy of I believe or I doubt or don't know nothing to I know, that's going to take a while, and it's going to be really traumatic, isn't it?
Yes.
Because we don't know shit. And we've been in this cusp point between the two ages, trying to base our entire being on what we believe.
Oh my God.
And we don't know anything. And yoga and Seven-Diamond Mudra is about knowledge.
Yes.
It's not about belief. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what I believe. And moving forward into the age of Aquarius is to say, our beliefs don't matter anymore. And even if you hold to them, they don't matter anymore. What matters is what you know. Hallelujah. It matters what you know. Because that's where we're headed. And some would say, again, it depends on who you talk to, because the cusp point's going to be really big either way. But that the movement of Pluto just recently out of the sign of Capricorn into the sign of Aquarius on this end has marked a great point where some astrologers saying, this is the beginning. This is the real beginning right now. We're stepping into it now. Pluto's is marking that point. And I will add to that the fact that all three outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, these are the three outer planets. They move the slowest.
Yes.
They take a long time to change signs. All three of these outer planets, y'all, over the course of the next, if you count 2024 through 2024 to 2026, all three of those planets are changing signs.
Wow.
That's big. And which is to say that all three of them are right on the edge right now. Neptune's at 29 degrees, Pisces, which is called the anaretic degree. The 29th degree, the last degree of each sign, is known as where it's the most potent. Neptune is 29 here. Uranus is 29 here. And then where did I get?
Pluto.
And Pluto just moved into, it's at 1 degree. So it just moved. Neptune's about to move. And Uranus is about to move. Next year, those three outer planets are all going to be at 1, 0, 1, 2 degrees of the new sign. And they are all moving from feminine into masculine. That's another traumatic change. Right now, Capricorn's feminine, Aqua's masculine. It's now moved into here, which is the birth of AI. In the pantheon of the media, right? Uranus, Earth, feminine, Gemini, mental, masculine. Uranus is about to go whoop. Neptune from Pisces, water, feminine into Arian, masculine, fire. You talk about a dramatic change coming, which has already started because Pluto moved. And these planets retrograde all the time, like all the other ones do, and they take forever to change because they keep going. But finally, by next year, maybe the end of next year, I think they're all going to be, and that marks, at least in the sky itself, that marks the great shift, which is why many astrologers now are saying, hey, we're actually coming out. We're here. We're getting there. I was born in 1968. John F. Kennedy was was assassinated in 1963. And the Gnostics, The Summer of Love was 1967. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and all that stuff. The 60s is known as the place where we stepped onto the cusp. And nowadays, 2025, the theory is that we're on the other end of the cusp now, actually into the new age, if you will. Let's toss it back to y'all. Comments, questions, go. If any of this is confusing to you, or if you just want to elaborate.
I love about the age of knowing, because I feel like a mantra I've had for quite some time now has been that I don't know anything. Like I know nothing, and it's helped, in my perspective, keep me open to new ideas. And I feel like just last weekend with my experience, it's been the first time that I can say, I know something, and I know it's true. And I can trust that and live my life from that. And yeah, it feels completely new to me, but I can see that that's where we're moving, because these truths that are inside of us will be unlocked on a bigger scale. It's coming. So.
Please, anyone? Questions, comments, sharings?
You said the Gnosticism.
What does Gnosticism mean? Knowledge. It means knowing. That's what the word is. Gnosis is knowing.
Sure.
Go ahead.
But I didn't really care to elaborate. I just wanted to elaborate on that.
That's exactly what the word means. It's not so. See, a lot of the modern church. We talked about the church earlier. A lot of the modern church poo-poos this. They think it's of the devil. They think knowledge is of the devil because why? Because it takes them out of their beliefs.
Yeah.
They want to hold on to their beliefs, and I don't have my beliefs. What do I have?
Truth.
And because if you hold on, if you hold tight to your beliefs, then you can justify in your mind the dogma that the church gave you. But that's what the church wants you to do. They want you to keep believing and doubting because that's how they can grab you by the balls and hold you. They don't want you to know because then there won't be any more butts in the seats on Sunday. And by the way, there are fewer and fewer in most churches around the world. For that very reason, because people go, wait, just a minute. Just like you said, the more we come to realize that we don't know shit is when we can start to know something. Right? Anybody else, please? Joy, Diane, anybody? It's Steve. And what does it really mean to know something? What does it feel like? Here's one. What's the felt experience difference
It's a feeling.
between a thought and intuition?
Yeah.
Right?
True knowing is a feeling.
It's a feeling, it's a felt experience, and compared to that, a thought almost feels like a heavy thing, a rock in your
An
head.
idea.
But when you know something, it's quicksilver. And what's the planet that goes along with quicksilver? Mercury.
Yes, sir.
And Mercury represents Gemini, the mental, the communicator. When we think of the Kundalini energy, Mercury, quicksilver coming up and down the spine. And when we have intuition, we have a knowing of something that is undeniable when it hits us.
Wings at his feet.
We don't have to think about it anymore. We know it so sometimes we know it so well we can't even explain it.